This is Stewart at the dedication of the Anne Frank Memorial Garden in Huntington, New York, believed to be the first of its kind in the United States.
In the spirit of my life and work with Father Tom Hartman, I want you to see this place not just as a memorial to a Jewish girl who was swept away by the kingdom of night, who was taken prisoner after being betrayed by an informant almost on this very day in 1942 and remained in hiding until August of 1944, and who died in Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. I want you to think of it as she thought of her own life in her iconic diary, as a tribute to all people of good heart and good spirit, of the more than 20,000 Dutch Christians who hid Jews during the Holocaust. This is a place for us to remember that the Holocaust is a record of shame, but also a record of heroism.
Of course, the events of World War II were despicable, like any war, but during which, to single out, most of you would use the correct word Jewish. But with an apology, I like to use religions, where 6 million of them perished, including 1.5 million children, which is an ultimate black spot on humanity. Jewish people's sacrifice shall never be forgotten, along with all innocent people who perish on our planet through no fault of their own. This neighborhood monument is but a small step in that direction.
I want to remind all of you that this year would have celebrated the 63rd anniversary of the first publication of Anne Frank's diary, a truly monumental feat brought about by a father who sought to bring his little girl's dream of becoming a writer to fruition. And although we cannot be sure, I like to imagine that Anne would be quite pleased knowing that she really has become something of an international celebrity. Originally published in Holland in 1947, The Diary of a Young Girl was first published here in the U.S. in 1952, and since then has sold over 40 million copies worldwide. It's been published in more than 70 different languages and is one of the most widely read works of nonfiction in the world. And I'm thrilled to watch as her legacy continues today here in Huntington.
The hardest part is somehow to thank Anne Frank for inspiring me at every juncture in the design and building this garden. I think her inspiration is part of this garden, and somehow this garden is a thank you to her for all of us. Now let's talk about the garden, and it speaks for itself, I hope, but I think there's certain facets of it I think we need to understand. When we walk through the entry, the gate, this is supposed to depict the time after the war to end wars, the First World War. It was a time of peace, of relative peace, and tranquility. The time when Anne Frank was born, and a time when people were more hopeful. And so we enter in this area. The type of pavement stone is supposed to replicate the traditional paving walks that took place in Europe, that you would have seen as you walk down the streets in Europe. Then we enter another area. Now this area is the time when the Nazis conquered Europe, where Kristallnacht, where homes were destroyed, where lives were destroyed for no rhyme or reason, the least no rhyme or reason that I could ever conjure up. This is the Nazi reign over Europe.
Okay.
Now, this is the period of after the war where I hope Anne Frank's words became more impregnated on men, because as you see, the last sentence here, God wants people to be happy amid nature's beauty and simplicity. And that's what this is supposed to depict. This is supposed to depict God's idea for nature and beauty, for people to enjoy it, but to also, this is a place for students to congregate, to learn the importance of what Anne Frank's teachings are, and the importance of just understanding each other. And so that the Holocaust could never happen again, so people will learn by them horrific mistakes. And that's what this area is, so they could sit and contemplate. There's a chance for students to learn, and so it'll make a difference in their lives. And the other idea was to look over a meadow, and the meadow is a bucolic place for people to be at one with nature. And that's a lot of Anne Frank's feelings, was to be a part of nature. Then when you walk down the path further, there's a sculpture piece, and that's where people, artists, will be able to display their art form.
Oh, rotating art pieces?
Rotating art pieces, so that people will be able to, or artists will be able to present art pieces that will make a statement as to what Anne Frank means to them, and hopefully what it would mean to other people. And as you walk down the path, I think one of the most important quotations coming from her diary is the last one, and that says, and there's a lady standing in front of it now, unfortunately for you, and I'd like to read it to you. How lovely to think that no one need wait a moment. We can start now, start slowly changing the world. And I think it's so important today to understand the importance of changing people's way of thinking, of people respecting each other. And I hope this garden embodies that feeling, and that people leaving this garden will have that as part of their educational process, because you could learn to hate, but you could learn to love. And this is an opportunity to learn how to respect.
I think it was a remarkable afternoon. It's a beautiful spot, a wonderful memorial. The quotes, there are three major quotes that really capture, I think, Anne's spirit. And I think it's an asset to the community, that it reflects well on the community that it built it, and it's an asset to the community that it's here.
Well, I think it's to honor Anne Frank's memory and her writings, and that she really saw the goodness of people despite living in the most horrific of circumstances. And if people can get that sense when they walk through here, that people are generally good, and that good will triumph over evil, then couldn't ask for anything more.
I think it'll have a great impact. This community has many people that are survivors of the Holocaust, and their families have been survivors. And I think what it does is it speaks highly for a town that looks at diversity as important as we do, and looks at the need for people not to forget what took place, because we don't want to live that way, nor do we condone living this way. I think this serves not only as a memorial for Anne Frank, but this is really a memorial for the Holocaust. I think it brings back many memories. Just the walk alone brings back memories of the Holocaust. And I think that's something that people need to have, people need to come, and people need to meditate and reflect. And just if someone is angry, they're angry at people, they don't like the way things are going, just come here, sit and meditate, and thank God for hence where you live and where you're going.
Anne Frank was an inspiration to people of all races. This memorial garden is designed to keep her memory alive. This is Stewart for Jewish Week TV.